We're indeed fortunate to have Gilbert as he comes and tickles the keys for us to get us going in anticipation of what we're going to get later. And now I'll bring you the invocation. So if you would just still yourself, put your feet flat on the floor, take a nice deep cleansing breath. Infinite Spirit, in whom we live, move, and have our being, I acknowledge the presence and power of God that's in and through everything that is done for Miracle Center for Spiritual Living in this day. Where we project only God, and God is one with us. One with our piano player, one with our Zoom tech, one with all others that are working today. God is one with Reverend June Clark, who brings us our message in this day. And this service is blessed. Each and every person is blessed. Each and every person that's out on Zoom, each and every person that's on their way, each and every person that's thinking about Miracle Center for Spiritual Living at 2653 South Taylor Road in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. And if you're in agreement with anything that I've said, please say with me, and so it is. Amen, amen, and amen. Welcome to Miracle Center for Spiritual Living. And be blessed in this day. All right. Excuse me. The internal dialogue of the ego can appear to drown out the internal universal song. Learn to listen closely and create a new harmony for your life. Let's say that again. The internal dialogue of the ego can appear to drown out the internal universal song. Learn to listen closely and create a new harmony for your life. That is so true. Today, in our affirmation for today, my life harmonizes with the song of the one. Today, my life harmonizes with the song of the one. And from our science of mind point of view, our thoughts are a collection of not only our personal experience, but the thoughts of the collective unconscious of the world itself. Literary experts speak of the Western canon, those works of art that are so ubiquitous that they have become part of our collective vernacular, even though we may be unaware of the source. This is true not only of literature, but of humanity itself. We have a canon of sorts that plays out in our world, decade after decade, century after century. This canon appears in beliefs such as war is inevitable, or the poor are always with us. Unpacking and identifying those thoughts and learning to listen for truth that is our divine life is one of the gifts of religious science and one of the greatest gifts of spiritual mind treatment. When we think and believe we are impoverished, we limit our possibilities. Knowing there is only abundance, we open our God mind to a bigger idea that upends any previous beliefs of lack. When we think and believe in illness, disease, we expand that experience in our lives. As we consider health, we align ourselves with our body and mind, bringing a greater sense of possibility into our world. We learn to live in an expanded sense of possibility. I think I can read this all over again. When we think and believe in illness and disease, we expand that experience in our lives. As we consider health, we align ourselves with our body and mind, bringing a greater sense of possibility into our world. We learn to live in an expanded sense of possibility. So true. When we think and believe we are loveless, we crowd out friendships and relationships from our lives. As we recognize our oneness with the divine and our part in that vast open ocean, we reach into the realm of possibility and see love and beauty everywhere. As we recognize what is already there, we expand our experience of love and beauty in our lives. We need to consider what our mental equivalent is when we are working to activate our conscious mind. We need to consider what our mental equivalent is when we are working to activate our conscious mind. We may say we want a new home, a new house, but Spirit may have a much bigger idea than anything we could imagine. So what we treat for is not so much the new house as what it represents, perhaps as safety and security, and maybe its family. It could be a refuge or retreat. It could be comfort. Whatever home means to you, be sure to include that in your affirmative prayer. Now let's say that or something better. You may be tempted to think it is about the view. Well, what does a view mean to you? Perhaps it means freedom or expansion. Consider deeply what it is that you want and move your thinking from that place. We will all face uncertainty in times of challenge. There is nothing to be ashamed of in having this experience. We do not hide or sugarcoat or spiritually bypass our lived experience. What we do is support each other in moving through it. If you can't see the truth for yourself, that's okay. Therefore, we have people trained to see the truth with you. This is when you may choose to reach out to your minister or one of our licensed practitioners. Wow, as usual, these beautiful words. And now I'd like to bring to you Reverend June.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jerry, that was extraordinary. Thank you. So
Just reading what you wrote.
I wish Ernest Hope. It's I was sitting there, of course, listening, and it's interesting. It's an interesting day for me, for us. It's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and two great and wonderful men that I chose to present this morning are Ernest Holmes and Dr. King. And in listening to these words that were written by Dr. Holmes and comparing the wisdom and the allness of purpose for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., these two men, I say the word parallel came up in my mind, but that's not what I feel. If I can explain it in this way, when I went to see the movie Gandhi, And some of you may or may not have seen it, but if you've seen it, maybe you can get the gist of what I'm talking about. There's a scene in that movie where the people of India are moving forward and marching for their cause. And then there's the British who are coming toward them, of course, for their cause. And it becomes a clash, the British upon the Indian people. And I remember sitting in that theater and literally transposing the Indian people depicted in the film, and their faces became Black people of the era of our struggles. And it was like one face just became Indian, and then all of a sudden it became African American. And that's the feeling that I get of the blend of these two avatars and these two simply everyday people who extended themselves into and blended themselves into each and every one of us, as religious scientists, as African Americans, as white and Asian and Jewish, and just the world people. Because as Jerry was reading these beautiful words that Holmes had written, it was, this is the people of the world that's absorbing this message. And the same thing is true of our science of mind that we love to live through and by, and what Dr. Martin Luther King brought to us and still brings to the world. So it's a special, special morning to me, for me, and we're going to be doing service just a tad different. So Chris is with us. Chris has his finger on the right button at the right time, and I will blend and catch up with him as we go through this, and it's going to be lovely. I just know it is. So we're going to start with a song, and this song is pretty much an anthem, I believe, for each one of us as we communicate with our God. What a simple two-word affirmation. Just, if you can't think of anything else to say when you're extremely happy, when you're extremely unsure about what the world is bringing to you, and anything, it's just a general, overall wonderful affirmation just to think about and literally ask God, tell God, use me. It's wonderful. So we're going to, if it all works out okay, and I'm sure it will, we are going to hear from Ernest Holmes through technology, and we are going to hear from Dr. King through technology. And here we go. This is Ernest. First, we're going to do the Ernest Holmes perspective, and then we'll do Martin Luther King's perspective. So we're going to start with Ernest Holmes, and Chris is going to tune us up again. And just listen to his philosophical outlook and his way that he decided that God would use him. Thank you, Dr. Ernest Holmes. If anyone is interested, you can find several of his recorded talks on the internet, and very interesting to hear his voice and his words. So I'm going to go to the Science of Mind textbook here on page 174 and 176. And Ernest Holmes, that particular lesson was on prayer, on treatment, on the power of prayer. And again, just looking at his perspective, Dr. Martin Luther King's perspective, it must be our perspective. It's so simple. So, I don't know, we throw around the word easy an awful lot, that it's easy. There are a lot of things that are extremely difficult that are easy. And somehow our humanness, our mind, our thought pattern about what it oughta, shoulda, coulda, woulda been makes it very hard. But these two men took the use me aspect of what they needed to do and be, and what they wanted to take of themselves to give to us. And it looks like, and it sounds like, and it feels like it was easy. But if you know the history of any individual, especially those who move through our world and expect us to accept the goodness and the allness and the wholeness of who we are, we somehow manage to just make it a tad difficult. Or maybe I ought to say, as I do, I just make it I, because the truth of me may not be the truth of you. But let's really consider what these two men have brought to us at this point in our lives. And it's easy, but yet it isn't easy, and it wasn't easy, and it continues not to be easy in the sense, but if we say it's grace and ease, then we know it's our perfect unfoldment, and it is easy. So I went to page 174 here, and this is in the mental and spiritual treatment, which Dr. Holmes was speaking about. When and what is a demonstration? And that's where I felt bringing in the easy part and not so easy part. And basically, as it says here in the book on 174, the second paragraph here, in the language of metaphysics, a demonstration is made when the thing is accomplished which the one treating desires to achieve. That's a demonstration. Whether it be health, happiness, or abundance, a demonstration is a manifestation. My thought pattern is when, how long is it going to take? Did it happen, or did I just imagine that things got better? Or, oh my goodness, did I pray right? Or how long do I wait? If you have other questions, I have many other questions too. But what it is the conviction that these two men had, belief in God. There's no doubt in God. There's nothing that God can do that is not correct, perfect, because God is perfect. So why do we struggle? Why do I struggle? And if you don't struggle, don't include yourself in my I. If you do struggle, then just you and I continue to grow and move forward. And we're fine. we're just existing within grace and ease, because everything that comes up for us is our highest and our best, even though it doesn't always look that way. It is prayer answered. So a demonstration is a manifestation. It is prayer answered. When the word of a practitioner takes form, this is a demonstration. Practitioner is written in with a small p, and I have said this many, many times. Every single being, thinking being, I don't care what religion you are, what philosophy you follow, we use the word practitioner. Some people say prayer partner. Some people call it minister at different levels. They call it pope. They call it priests. They call it nuns. They call it, I'm not sure about other religions where there are people at many, many levels that go to school, just like science of mind. You go to school, you take classes. If you take certain classes and you pass certain exams, you pass certain panels, you become a practitioner, which is a prayer partner to the minister, to the service, to the congregation or whoever. If you go to school longer, you take other classes, you pass other tests, you take other exams, you take other oral exams, and you become a minister. And that's a minister level in our particular church. There are all kinds of labels of people, but basically every single person is a practitioner, because you are being of service in a spiritual way to yourself. If you don't think you're being of service to someone else, you're incorrect. Because nothing you think, say, or do within the sound of someone else's voice or the seeing of someone else's presence about you, you're teaching them something. Every single person on this planet. And what just came up in my mind, but I don't want to be misunderstood. I was going to say other animals, we're animals. But if you have ever had a dog, cat, kangaroo, whatever, you know what they give out immediately? Unless they're kind of a hybrid and they have hate in them, I guess you might call it. But love. Other levels of interaction, the base is usually love, loving. They bring love with the wag of a tail. They bring love with a going along your leg and rubbing their head on you. They bring love. What do we bring? What do we, the humans, bring? Because animals function from sound. They function from what they see. They function from what they hear. And we do the same thing. But I'm not going to go into it. But own it. What do you bring? What do you bring with those senses that we have? What's the first thing you might bring, depending on the situation, depending on the way somebody's dressed, depending on the color of their hair, depending if they have no hair? I mean, those are simple examples. What we believe, where we believe from. If you believe that love, grace, and ease is the premise of who you are, is the allness of who you are, you believe in God, that's what's going to be projected from you to someone else. So you don't have to practice, and that makes you a practitioner. You don't have to do anything. It's good to hone your skills. It's good to listen on Sunday morning or whatever day you happen to go to church, whatever religion you are. But I'm getting off the point here. I think you got it. We are all practitioners at heart. When desire is given a subjective mold and then becomes objectified in the life of the one for whom the practitioner is working, which can be yourself, this is demonstration. How do you demonstrate when you get up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning? Do you grunt and say, goodness, I got to get up? Or do you say, thank God, I know that I can get up? It's a demonstration. Simple as that. The practitioner, of course, gives thanks as he makes his demands on the infinite. The infinite's capitalized. That's God. Makes his demands on the infinite, knowing that supply and demand are one and that his request is instantly manifest on the invisible plane. The invisible plane. There's nothing that my hand bumps into as I wave it around, because there's an invisible facto that there's air there that I breathe, that I don't need a helmet or anything. It's a demonstration. Now, if I did not believe, and I'm not trying to be funny, if I did not believe that if this, whatever this is, was available to me every second that I choose to breathe, that's a problem. If that is a belief that is accurate for someone, that's a problem. So, I mean, that's really overstretching the simplicity of prayer. But if that was a belief, all of a sudden for me, which it happens, you might just get short of breath or whatever, how the body reacts, might stop breathing. What do you go to? What do you say? Oh God, prayer comes immediately, not sooner. Get me some air. Let my lungs open, let my nose, my nostrils know that the air is going to go into my body. As a practitioner, there you go. You get your answered prayer. You don't realize you're being a practitioner. But take that example and apply it to every single thing that comes up in your life. Because we are always being practitioners to the self first. And as the self realizes the best way, the highest way, the happiest being that you can be is to trust and know God. So since we do, we have that skill as a practitioner, and we use it every single moment of our lives. The next sentence here says, before they call, will I answer? Is the divine promise. The divine promise, not a human promise, not a promise that we give to one another because the brain moves certain words down and they come out of the mouth and they sound really interesting. Yeah, I promise I'll do that. We do that a lot. I do that a lot. I promise. And I believe I'll do it, but I don't do it, which is kind of the human aspect of us. But God doesn't play around. The infinite does not question itself. It does not purposefully align itself into misdirection or incomplete appreciation for what is, None of that. And this lesson in this book is what Ernest Holmes was bringing to us just in this one small paragraph. Out of all the pages in this book, if you go into this book and any of Holmes' book, if you're going to analyze, pick apart, memorize without having specific meaning tied to something, you might say, my goodness, this book is filled with repetition. It says the same thing over there that it says over here. And I read another one of his books and it said the same thing. He was human. And God, being infinite, gave us humans the right to not believe what we ought to believe when we see it, smell it, taste it, are it. So a lot of stuff gets to be repetition, especially when we use treatment and misuse it without belief. Oh my goodness, I treated, I don't understand. It came right back. Guess what? Belief. Ernest Holmes, and as we will see with Martin Luther King, they truly, truly, with their infinite self, not their human self, their infinite self, believed in what they were saying, what they were giving to the world. Did they know? I don't know. I can't say. Did they know when they were giving these messages? Did they know that how many years later we would be celebrating their words, using their words, quoting their words, that children would be, maybe they don't learn science of mind in a classroom, but maybe they ought to, but that's beside the point. But what do we thrive upon? We thrive upon the goodness, the infinite knowingness that we are, that we have been taught, that has been brought forward to us by these two men. Human beings, just like us, and they truly, truly believe in what they sought to bring forward to us. So let me see what's next here. Okay, 176.1, and then we'll move into Dr. King. 176, for every action, there is always an opposite and an equal reaction. If this is true, and the equal and opposite reaction is automatic, like a reflection, which nothing can stop, then the practitioner does not try to create the reflection. He tries to embody the image. Sometime, maybe not. I just offer it as a thought pattern. Like a reflection, nothing can stop. Then the practitioner does not try to create the reflection. If you pray yourself, if you go to a practitioner and you are going for a specific reason, which we tend to be, if you feel that when you pray for yourself, or when you're listening as a practitioner is praying for you or with you, well, you don't just say this to yourself, but you might say it of another who is the outside person, in essence, of the situation. Oh, they said the prayer, and but they didn't say how it was going to turn out. But when I ask, I know what I want, and I know what I asked for. There's a little word called outlining. And in outlining the difference, simple difference, you're treating for a car. You know you want a car. So here's the car. I want a car, maybe a certain model, maybe a certain color, maybe a certain cost, the seats, this, the steering wheel, that. And in our humanness, we are creating what it is that we want. The essence of praying aright, so to speak, within a treatment, praying for a car could be, the practitioner may or may not say a car, they may say transportation. They will not designate a big or a small car. They will use words like that you will have answered prayer, and it will be the perfect answer for your question in the essence of how they will pray with you and for you. And I don't like to use the example of illness because it's very difficult for me to accept as a premise, but it is also very clear. Someone is not well. You want them to live. A practitioner will pray for the highest and the best in any situation. A practitioner who is a professional practitioner, who has training to say words in a different way than you say them yourself. But don't let any level of education, don't let any way that words come out. If you want to talk to God, you talk to God. Not just when, oh God, I want the pain to go away. Not just, oh, thank God. Just simply believe, again, as these two men believed the way they lived their lives, the way they projected their, what shall I say, their belief to us was get some of this, get some of this of what I know. So don't let anything stop you from not seeking what it is that you know, just because it is not in a certain order. I guess that's what I want you to know and what I want to say. And I got to get on to Dr. King here. So the Martin Luther Jr. perspective is, let's see, go ahead with his first. Let's see, what's the next one for you? Gloria is the next one. Okay, wait on that one for a minute. I have a few quotes here by Dr. King. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. And that's not somebody outside of yourself. If you're not respecting yourself, if you're not loving yourself, how can you do anything, just anything for anybody else or with anybody else that's going to have a wonderful outcome? Faith is taking the first step even when you can't see the whole staircase. I love that. Faith is taking the first step when you can't see the whole staircase. It's just, if you let that be in your heart, without all the background, without all the noise, without all of what you think about a situation, the way it was and why it was that way. If you are one that knows exactly what and why and when and where and who and this and that, try and take all that stuff and throw it away. I'm not going to go into it, but my youngest son came, my firefighter son came, and he came Thursday night and he left this morning. Within that very short span of time, we talked and talked and talked. 89, I won't say 99.9, but 89% of what I was listening to about what I thought I knew was turned upside down and around and backwards, because he was doing the talking. I was doing the listening about situations in his youth. I was thinking this way, he was doing this way, and he knew. I was there and I thought I knew. And I'm using that as an example. What you think about what you think about is only your own perception. So if there is a situation in your life that you haven't shared what your feelings are about a certain thing with somebody, don't tell them what it is that you think happened. Maybe just bring up hot water cornbread as your sister or your brother. Now, how do you think mama made it? And shut your mouth and open your ears. Just learn to listen. Learn to say, oh my goodness, you're never wrong. I'm never wrong. But I can understand something new that may be different than what I understood was right. If you understand what I mean. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a permanent attitude. Just a very, very few quotes. And I'm going to pay just a little bit of glory. And then I want to get to our reader today, who's Chase Roberts. Just a little bit of glory. The next presentation here is given to us, the reader for today, by Chase Roberts. And I will let Chase Roberts introduce himself. I'm not sure if he says his name, but his name is Chase Roberts. Amen.
Amen.
That was 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Just like Dr. Holmes, Dr. King, like the Bible, these words of those who believe is the most important. Would you please play the song? And after it starts, I'll just go like this, and then I'll do the treatment. And if Jerry and Fran want to come up, then we'll close with this song and the words in prayer.
shall all overcome. We shall all overcome. We shall all overcome the greed in us. We shall all overcome. We shall all overcome. We shall all overcome the hate in us. We shall conquer illusions and find true liberty, that which leads us to
In this
these troubled
this birthday of Martin Luther King Jr., God ordained him as a minister in adult life, ordained him in birth as a avatar. Dr. Ernest Holmes was ordained at birth to be an avatar. The many, many philosophers, what would we call them? Those who have been before us, come before us, no matter whether it's pre-Christ, AD, after Christ. There are so many messengers remembered, to think upon, to know the truth. And within those messages and messengers, I am, you are. We are all as it says, every word that we heard in essence with this presentation this morning, that there is one essence of truth, and that is God is. And as we celebrate this anniversary of Martin Luther King, bring up the Martin Luther King within yourself. We have those of you within the sound of my voice, obviously, are believers, interested in, followers of, learners of, curious about science of mind. Otherwise, we would not be within the sound of my voice. So wherever we are on that journey of faith, of believing, of knowing, of affirmative prayer within us, of the many needs and wants that we have in our lives, it's okay. I pity, someone said, pity the fool that does not know that there's more to life than they are having right now. I want more and more and more in every positive aspect of life that there is. And when I am open to it, as each and every one of us are, as all of these historical figures and writers and just bringers of truth, we are our own truth. We are God expressing, we are infinite intelligence, we are infinite love, we are peacemakers, we are dedicated to knowing more and more of the self in order to give more and more to another. How wonderful to be at this point of knowing in our lives. I bless this day. I bless this service this morning. I bless my son's visit. I bless all of us who have special happy moments, this thought, this morning, this day. Because if you feel good and infinite as I do, I know you are joyous, peaceful, and loving in your heart. Knowing that this is our truth. Claim it in every aspect of every part of your life. Claim it, live it, and give it away. And knowing the truth is the truth of who we are, we must give thanks. We must pray aright. And however you pray, it is aright. And if there is any need, any assistance, call a practitioner, call the prayer line. If there's another religion that will help, get help. For we are blessed to be on this planet. We are blessed to be who we are. And we give thanks for it. And we are open to more and more and more and more. Happy birthday, Dr. King. Thank you for being with us, Ernest Holmes. thank you all for being with us this morning, with one another. And together let us say, and so it is. Amen and amen. And now Jerry is going to bless us again with some announcements, and just good to have you here.
Second, okay.
Is the intro, and then it's every 4 weeks. Here's
Oh, gotcha. All righty. Let's give Reverend June a round of applause for this absolute complete service. She pulled up that young fellow from where? ACT. Oh, we have been wonderfully prayed with and prayed for in this day. The Keys to Wisdom workshop, the study group, is going to resume in April 5th from 1:30 to 2:30. And that's on a Thursday, I believe. And then we're going to have blessings from Reverend Leora. She's going to do a phone call session called Our Sacred Mission Tune-Up. And that's going to start on February the 2nd, which hopefully it's a Thursday also. But there will be some more information forthcoming on that. Oh, it is. So those in the sanctuary have the big flyer here that gives you a lot more information. And you are especially invited into this sacred circle. And the purpose of gathering will assist Miracle Center for Spiritual Living in its mission to provide positively impact the waning mortgage balance. In 2 years, we will complete our land contract, and we have a balloon payment that has to be paid off. So this is what they're talking about. Once we go another 2 years now, I guess it's a little less than 2 years. We have $36,000 that we need to pay off, and we're 2/3 of the way there, so we're in good shape. So we want to continue that, but we're gonna have different sessions to support this. So to register and obtain materials for the Sacred Circle telephone conference, contact Reverend June 216-938-8998. And a donation of $20 or greater. I like that. They talked about that. Don't just pray for a house, pray for a house and anything better or greater.
Nail it to the church.
A greater at the time of the registration is appreciated. Make checks payable to MCSL, and please indicate mortgage fund on the memo line of the check. And the materials for this Sacred Circle telephone conference includes a packet, which is a guide, an affirmation to start each day, a reading to contemplate as a guide, or encouraging the soul to express from a deep dive, to jot down thoughts, feelings, etc. Essential to mind, body, soul connection, releasing that which is no longer a benefit in living. And upon receipt of the donation, the materials will be available at the church office or to you through the postal service. So this is a new session that's going to be starting here pretty soon, in a couple of weeks. So it sounds really interesting and enlivening. So if you would just relax, and we'll just end our service here with benediction. I just give thanks. I give wonderful thanks for this wonderful, wonderful service that we've had today. Something that wakes up the mind, makes you want to go and just read the books and find out where all this wonderful information has come from. I know that we are blessed as we go to our respective homes, or if we are on Zoom, we are blessed as we continue our days. And I just give thanks for this time that we have been together. And if you are in agreement with me, please say with me, and so it is. Does anybody want to sing the peace song? Well, let's do it then. And we will come back to the Zoom.
Thanks again, Jerry, and mail your checks into the church, and we'll get started with getting information out to you for the project. Thank you.